Double game week 34 has just been confirmed. We've also got the top players for expected points by position. We'll talk about the best captain, the clean sheet odds, and the best players to buy. This video has got all the information you need to know ahead of game week 30. All right, we're going to start off the video then by talking about the top players by position for expected points, courtesy of my friends at DraftHound. To find this data for yourself, you can sign up to DraftHound. There's a link in the description below. So starting off then with the goalkeepers, Kelleher, providing that Alisson, of course, still isn't back for game week 30. I think it's really important we get some news on him because Kelleher could be a really nice option at 3.8 million. You know, Liverpool definitely not too bad defensively. Hopefully players beginning to return from injury, likes of Trent, etc. Yeah, Kelleher's a nice option. FPL and DraftHound are really backing him to keep a clean sheet in game week 30 and get some saves bonuses as well. I think that's a strong thing about Liverpool goalkeepers in general. Liverpool keep a decent amount of clean sheets, obviously one of the best teams for the total of clean sheets across the season. But their goalkeepers also tend to make quite a lot of saves, which is why Alisson usually emerges as one of the top scoring goalkeepers. And likewise, we're seeing that with Kelleher here. And to be honest, I've not really seen a drop off between Kelleher and Alisson at all. Kelleher's been playing at a really top level and basically completely filled in Alisson's shoes. Leno's in second place. That's obviously propped up by the fact he's got a fixture against Sheffield United. We see Vicario with Luton at home in third, Neto with Everton at home in fourth, Petrovic, Onana, Martinez, Seld, the Nottingham Forest keeper, Johnston and Dubravka are the top keepers. On to the defenders, and Pedro Porro leads the list for the top defenders for expected points. He's on 5.1 expected points, just ahead of Romero. I mean, both players, like we saw with Vicario, kind of back to keep a clean sheet against Luton. Gusto and Disasi, both of Chelsea. They've got Burnley at home, so again, highly back to keep a clean sheet in that one. Connor Bradley, who I believe still has the top points per game of any player in FPL at the moment. And at 4.1 million, he could be a bit of a bargain. Obviously, I would say it's kind of a wait and see for me as to whether Connor Bradley is a good option if you don't have him already. I think we need to see how they line up with Trent back into the squad. If Trent plays in midfield and Connor Bradley retains that right back spot, which I think could feasibly happen, then of course Connor Bradley is a really nice option, particularly with Liverpool having a double game week in game week 34 as well. Destiny Udogi's up there as well. Personally, in my mind, I'd put him right up there with Romero and Pedro Porro. I think all three of those guys have equal attacking returns threat. And then we've got John Stones is up there, obviously with Arsenal, a tough fixture, offers a bit of goal threat. But yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be one of the top players in my opinion. And then we've got three Fulham defenders, obviously with Sheffield United away. We've got Castagna, Robertson and Bassi rounding off the defenders. Midfielders then, and DraftHound have Heung-min Son leading the way for expected points across the whole game. Luton at home is obviously a really strong fixture for Tottenham. He's on 7.5 expected points. Cole Palmer on 7.2. Obviously Chelsea likewise having a really good fixture against Burnley. Salah against Brighton, he's got 6.1 expected points. Foden still back to do quite well. Joint with Salah actually. Considering he's got Arsenal, that's quite surprising. But obviously he's had such a good season. You've got to think he's going to play against Arsenal, right? There's no way Pep, unless he gets injured on international duty, there's no way Pep leaves him out of that one. So he's joint 6.1 expected points for Foden alongside Salah. Havertz is up there as well, obviously in really good form at the moment. Will he score at the Etihad? I'm not massively sure, but he is in really good form at the moment. You can't discount him, in my opinion, as an option. Maddison, Bowen, Rashford, Odegaard and Douglas Luiz round off the midfield. Right, on to the forwards then, and we see Erling Haaland returning as #1 striker for the game week. 6.9 expected points, even though he's playing Arsenal. I think the fact that he's at the Etihad, he definitely has a better record at the Etihad than he does away from home. So I think that bolsters, in my opinion, his expected points, and DraftHound, I think, agree with me. Got Watkins in second place on 5.8, but given the double game week 34 announcement, which we'll get into in a bit more detail, both Solanke and Darwin have a double in 34 and Watkins doesn't. And I think at 9 million now, not with a double game week coming up, he's also not on penalties. Villa have got some suspensions and injuries, etc, etc. Yes, he's got a great level of attack and returns, etc. I'm not going to say he's a definite sell, but I'd ask the question, in order to improve your team as a whole, could you use the money for Watkins, sell him to Darwin or Solanke, save yourself nearly 2 million in those cases, right? And improve your team elsewhere? I think that's a viable way to play the game going forward. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion straight away, but I think it's something really to think about. We see Nicholas Jackson, Burnley at home. He looks to be a little bit more confident than we saw from him at the start of the season. He's definitely not a game breaker by any stretch of the imagination, but 6.8 million for a guy that seems to be scoring goals now for Chelsea, I think is good value. We see Solanke and Semenyo both on relatively similar expected points. Semenyo and Muniz, actually, you can see Muniz down below. I think we've seen with the emergence of these couple of cheap strikers that are scoring goals regularly and both starting regularly for their teams, it also allows you to save a bit of cash in the forward spot. So maybe if you've got Watkins as a third striker, you could drop Watkins to Solanke or Watkins to Semenyo or Muniz, save yourself, into that case, what, 4.5 million? And that could potentially allow you to get someone like Salah and Son into your midfield if you've got cheaper players in those positions. I mean, just something to think about, right? I think there will be a movement in the game to potentially move away from 3-4-3 to 3-5-2. And yeah, these two players really allow you to do that, because right now I can't name you a decent budget midfielder, but I can name you can see there, two really decent budget forwards. Just to round them off, we've got Mateta, Wood, Isak and Darwin Núñez are the other top forwards. And like I said, potentially considering a move from from Watkins to Núñez, Watkins to Solanke, or to save even more cash, potentially moving him on to Semenyo and Muniz could be a smart transfer as part of your Game Week 30 plans. Right, so what I wanted to do next was just talk through who the best captain is for Game Week 30, and I'll look through my two top sources for expected points. So first off, we've got Draft Hound. As we saw when going through the positions, Son is emerging as the top player for expected points. 7.5, he's got Luton at home, really good fixture. Palmer in second, Haaland in third, and interestingly, Salah's in fourth place. I don't quite know the backing numbers behind like those Draft Hound algorithms, but I personally, in my mind, wouldn't put Salah in fourth place. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you that as a source. Then we've got FPL Review. They actually have Salah as the top player for expected points. One of the good things about FPL Review is that you can, in that X minutes column, if you wanted to, you could adjust that number manually yourself. I think I largely agree with those minutes. 90 minutes for Salah, Son and Haaland, and Palmer on 84, which is, I mean, close enough to 90, right? And even if you put Palmer at 90 expected minutes, right, he'd still be the fourth best player. So, yeah, Salah's number one for FPL Review, closely followed by Son, Haaland and Palmer. So a couple of AI expected points tools there to sort of back up the captaincy. And what I thought I'd do next, I just wanted to put together a stats comparison between the three players across the season, and then also a little bit of a comparison between the three fixtures that they've got. So you can see on the stats, I would suggest that Salah across the season is the leading of the three players, right? He started less games than Son, one more game than Palmer, but the expected returns per 90 that he's put together is over 1. And that's basically saying every time he walks out onto a football pitch or starts a game, he's expected to get an attacking return. So I think in terms of stats, I would suggest Salah leads it. One interesting thing to point out is that both Son and Palmer are massively over-egging their XG. I think Son is safe to say that he's just an elite finisher, and we see season on season that he does that. But for Cole Palmer, 11 goals from 8.4 XG. Yes, he's in great form at the moment, don't get me wrong. Could we see towards the end of the season, potentially that kind of drop a little bit and revert towards the XG? I mean, it remains to be seen, but just something to think about. And then in terms of the fixtures, so Son has got Luton. All three players play at home, so that's one thing that I would sometimes use to differentiate between captains. If there's an away fixture, I'd probably favour the home one if another player that's a captain option plays at home. But all three of these guys are actually playing at home in Game Week 30. So Son has Luton, who across the season have conceded 60 goals, 71.45 expected goals they've conceded, which is just crazy. In their last 5 games, Luton have a 13.84 expected goals conceded, which is over double Brighton and a lot more than Burnley. Brighton actually at the moment are not too bad defensively, and across the season they're not actually that bad for XGC either. They've conceded the fewest goals of the teams on this list, and only 41.13 XGC across the season. I think that ranks them in 3rd or 4th place in the league. And in the last 5 games, their XGC is 5.05. So basically, we're finding out that Brighton are the best defence by far of the 3 opposition. Luton, probably the weakest, and we can see there with Burnley. I've actually made a mistake in those numbers. Apologies for that. It's 51.83 XGC, not 41. But still, it puts them in second place, basically. 63 goals conceded across the season, but across their last 5 games, Burnley are on 9.18 XGC, which is halfway between, basically, Luton and Brighton. So I'd say in terms of stats, Salah edges it, but in terms of fixtures, Salah probably has the toughest fixture, and Son edges it. So Son is probably the 3rd best player in terms of stats, but the best player in terms of fixtures. Salah, he's the best player in terms of stats, but the worst player in terms of fixtures. And I'd say Palmer is in the middle for both. Where does that leave me? Well, in coming to a conclusion for captain, it's impossible in my opinion at the moment to call it. I think for me, I'm going to wait for the international break to play out. We might have injuries or players that have a long way to travel, might not be 100% fit coming back, etc, etc. I just think there's so much to think about still and so much that could potentially happen before making a decision. But based on these stats alone, it just suggests that the captaincy is so open. I, in my mind, would think just based on ownership and probably a lot of players wildcarding in 31 rather than 30, Son might be the most popular captain, Palmer in 2nd place and Salah in 3rd. That's just what my gut tells me. I don't know, you can let me know in the comments who you think the most popular captain will be. And I would also say on a week where, you know, there are multiple different captaincy options who look equally as good, that's a decent time where you can go a bit different with your captain. So potentially captaining Salah could actually be a differential for game week 30. Yeah, just something to think about, I think. You know, weeks where there's a clear, absolute best captain, probably best not to go different. But week where, you know, it's a toss-up between 2 or 3 players, that's when you could potentially go a bit different. And I think game week 30 is one of those opportunities. So yeah, based on everything I've showed you there, I'd be interested to know who you think is the best captain in game week 30. Let me know in the comments. I'll just flash through the clean sheet odds then. So Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool, joint with Nottingham Forest to be fair, are the leading teams for clean sheet odds. Chelsea 48% to keep a clean sheet against Burnley. What you'll notice this week is there's no team above 50%, so it suggests Draft Hound are predicting pretty much every team to concede in the league this week. But Chelsea are top on 48%, Tottenham on 40%, Liverpool and Forest both on 38%, Villa, Fulham and Man City all on 36%. I mean, Man City 36% to keep a clean sheet against Arsenal. Do you believe that number? I think that's a bit over-egged in my opinion. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Bournemouth on 31%. And then realistically, any team below 30%, I wouldn't want to back to keep a clean sheet. I would say Arsenal, they're the best defence in the league at the moment. So I would put them a little bit higher than 20% to keep a clean sheet. Not all that much higher than that, though, I don't think. One thing I would say, if I had Gabriel in my team, just with the amount of goal threat that he has, I probably would still start him, even if I didn't back him to keep a clean sheet against Man City. I just think, well, Gabriel and a lot of the Arsenal defenders carry quite a bit of attacking threat. So yeah, I don't mind starting them, I guess. But yeah, that's the clean sheet odds. Right then, so I mentioned at the start of the video that double game week 34 has been confirmed, and I've got the fixtures table courtesy of Ben Crellin on X. If you're not already following Ben Crellin on X, you absolutely should. He is the fixture meister, right, when it comes to FPL. He's kindly put together a table based on the double game week 34 announcement and his prediction of likely double game weeks later on in the season as well. So we can see with game week 34, we've got a double, what's that, for 7 teams. So we got Liverpool, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Everton and Sheffield United all with a double. I mean, I don't really need to talk through the best players that have got a double game week, but I will do. I think from Liverpool, you've obviously got Salah and Darwin Núñez are the top outstanding assets in my opinion. Fulham and Everton, they could potentially be clean sheets for Liverpool in that game. So Kelleher, you know, if he's still in the team and Alisson's out for a long time, he could be really good, although that's a bit of an if. I'd say VVD, Robertson, Trent, if they're back, they're all decent options as well. I'd say it'd be worth covering Liverpool with probably Salah, Darwin, and then a defensive asset. Arsenal, I think most of us have probably already tripled up, if not doubled up on Arsenal. Wolves and Chelsea, I think, is a really nice double game week. Saka's obviously the best Arsenal option. I'm currently doubled up on Arsenal defenders. I don't think that's too bad. Could conceivably keep 2 clean sheets in those 2 games. And obviously with the goal threat that some of the Arsenal defenders pose, I think they could be really nice options. Bournemouth, obviously Solanke, Semenyo, 2 really good options there. Neto, I mean, quite a lot of people are going to have Bournemouth players already getting ready for the double that they had in game week 28. So yeah, they could be decent options just to hold. Crystal Palace, I wouldn't really say there are too many decent options, but I'd say Eze and his name Richards, the 3.9 million defender. He could be really nice just to start in that week. Wolves, I'd say Neto, if he's fit, maybe. And Sarabia. Hwang could be fit by then. Cunha could be fit by then. So they could be decent options as well. Everton, I'd say Branthwaite's a decent option. Could even go for Jordan Pickford. Not too many good options in my opinion for Everton. But yeah, I don't mind those two guys, I guess. And then Sheffield United, you may as well pick a single game week player in my opinion. And then just looking at future game weeks, there's a potential double for Chelsea and Tottenham in 35. They're probably most likely to double in 36 and 37 as well. I think, remember Ben Crellin saying that they could, it's quite unlikely, but they could potentially both have a triple game week in game week 36 if, 37, sorry, if all things play out correctly. But most likely to double in 36 and then 37 as well. It's quite interesting because Tottenham, as you can see there, have a blank in game week 34. They don't play in that game week, but they could potentially have 2 consecutive doubles. So there's going to be a period basically where you want to offload your Spurs assets for 34 and then get them back in for the game week 36 and 37 timeline. So lots of transfers to be used in that time period. But yeah, I think that summarises the fixtures quite nicely. And like I said, full credit to Ben Crellin for putting this sheet together. Just a quick chat through who I think are the top transfer targets for game week 30. And my number one target, I think, has got to be Mo Salah, right? He's back fit, looks good to start for Liverpool, obviously provided he gets through the international break unscathed. I'd say he's my favourite and top player for expected points over the next 3 game weeks, and arguably the best captain for 30 and definitely the best captain for game week 31. You can see here, so fixtures for game week 30 on the left, 31 on the right. Like I said, we went through the captains for game week 30, so I'm not going to go through that in too much detail. In game week 31, he's got Sheffield United at home. Haaland's got Aston Villa at home, so obviously a decent option, but I think, you know, when Salah's playing Sheffield United, you've got to captain him. So with the fact that he's a decent captaincy option for the next couple of game weeks, and most players don't have him, and I think come game week 31, you need to, he's got Sheffield United at home. That's an unbelievable captaincy option. I think you've got to say he's the best transfer target for game week 30, right? And let's not forget, he's probably the best player in FPL history, and he's one of probably 2 players in the league between him and Haaland with over 1 expected returns per 90. So yeah, all those things considered, I think Salah's the top target for game week 30. I'm just going to caveat this a little bit. I'm definitely not saying that Erling Haaland is a complete sell, right? He's definitely not a player that you should be selling. But if you don't have him already because you've either not free hitted in 29 or got prepared for the double in 28, which involved potentially selling Haaland, I'd say he's not a player that you need to absolutely rush back in. Especially because they've got Arsenal in game week 30, who are the best defence in the league statistically. And I would say that Son and Salah are probably better captain options. Well, in my opinion, there are 3 better captain options than Haaland in game week 30. I went through them. Palmer, Salah and Son. I think they're all better captain options than Haaland are. So you don't need him for game week 30, and you probably don't need him for 31 either, with Salah playing Sheffield United. So you could potentially just keep him out of your team for a couple more game weeks, right? And I would also say, just in general, he doesn't appear to be hitting the heights that he did last season. Obviously, broke the Premier League goal scoring record, right? But he's missed a lot of good chances this season. You can see there, 21.3 XG and only 18 goals from that. Suggests that he's not completely firing. He did show that he had a bit of a knock in Norway training. Oh, I think that was a play, to be honest, to get out of the squad to play for Man City, to be honest. I wouldn't read too much into his injury. But what I would read into is the quality of fixtures that he has compared to some of his potential FPL rivals, the likes of Salah and Son, like I said, making him probably not the best captain for the next couple of game weeks, which makes me think if you don't have him in your team currently, he isn't the number 1 priority to bring back in, and you could probably do without him for a couple more weeks. I wanted to talk quickly about Kelleher. Now, I haven't really been able to find any solid news on Alisson's injury and when he's likely to return to Liverpool. Could be, could be back for game week 30, or it could be out for the season. He could be back sort of halfway between then. I don't know. Hopefully we get some more information before the deadline. But if we do get positive, well, I'll say it's not positive news about Alisson, but positive news for Kelleher would be obviously Alisson being out for a bit longer. I think he's a really, really nice option. 3.8 million for a player that's going to be playing in goal for Liverpool. He's genuinely one of the top players for expected points in the game for the next couple of game weeks, considering he's got Brighton, who he could feasibly keep a clean sheet against and probably get saves bonus against. And then Sheffield United probably ticks the same boxes. He's been playing really well. And Liverpool are one of the top defences in the league. Even if they have been conceding the odd goal here and there, they're still one of the top defences in the league, in my opinion. I'd expect clean sheets potentially and saves bonus. And at 3.8 million, of course, if Alisson stays out of the Liverpool team and still injured, I mean, he's a fantastic option. I'd definitely say he's just one to watch for the time being. I think we need to get some surefire Alisson news in order to bring Kelleher in. But 3.8 million for a Liverpool goalkeeper, you can't ignore. All right, and that's the end of the video. That was probably one of my longest videos I've ever made on YouTube. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about for Game Week 30 now, particularly considering we've got the fixtures announcement. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and found it useful, please leave me a like rating. You can subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel. It should be just there. And I'll catch you in my next video. Thank you very much for watching.